Welcome back to TSO Daily Dose. We're so glad that you've come to join us once more to hear what we're doing at the TSO during these tough times. Please tell us what you think and connect with us on Facebook with the hashtag TSO Daily Dose, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to get all the notifications. Welcome back to TSO Daily Dose. Today I'm here for a discussion with a member of our orchestra who has been here for over 36 years. I'm here with tutti cellist Ivan James. So Ivan, you've been in the orchestra over 36 years. I'm really interested, because I've only been here 3 years now, I'm really interested in how the orchestra has changed over that time, and also, to a certain extent, how Hobart has changed.
When I first came here, I think my first session with the orchestra was a recording session with Barry Tuckwell, because Barry Tuckwell was the chief conductor at the time, and I thought, wow, the famous horn player. I'd never met him before, and he was just standing right in front of me. We were doing a recording for, I think in those days it was AM radio. Yep. Maybe, and it was we were doing Strauss waltzes. I remember that. It was back in the Odeon, and. So in those days, we didn't do any CD recordings. We did a lot of recording for radio. Yep. So when we weren't doing our concert programs, the gaps were filled with studio recordings for radio.
This is back in the days when it was an ABC orchestra. The ABC
right.
owned the orchestra, and so you're predominantly a recording orchestra.
That's right. Well, we were. We did maybe slightly less live performances than we do today. I'm not sure on that. But the rest of the time, whereas today we do a lot of, we have been doing a fair number of CD recordings, and also our concerts are all broadcast on radio pretty much, aren't they?
We still have a sort of very close relationship with the ABC for broadcasting our concerts.
That's right.
Yeah.
But when I arrived, there was a lot of fairly tedious recordings for radio. I remember them. Yeah.
Okay, so tedious in the amount of cuts that would be done.
Yes, they
and
just kept redoing over and over, and I remember Barry Tuckwell. The conductor's podium had a telephone on it, and he'd be on the phone whispering into the phone, and he'd be talking about, because they'd be discussing which bits needed to be doing it, who was making mistakes, and and that was quite funny.
That would be incredibly intimidating.
I wasn't intimidated. I just thought it was hilarious, really. Yeah.
And so the orchestra has grown a bit, I think, since then. Or?
I think when I arrived, it was about 45 players. It's now 46.
Okay.
There was always a contention over the harp at one point, whether we have a permanent harp or a permanent bass trombone. I think. Oh no, harp
permanent
or tuba.
Yes.
Harp or tuba. Yes,
the bass trombone is always essential.
That's right. Yes, of course. So it's about the same size, but we do. We probably augment it more frequently now.
Yes.
Than we did then.
Okay, so you were limited in the repertoire that you played back then?
No, we used to do Tchaikovsky symphonies with, 4, 5, or sometimes 6 cellos, but we still did the larger, later romantic works, Brahms and stuff, with 4 cellos.
So did that mean you had to chunk it out with a whole lot more sound?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm still used to, I sort of grew up with small orchestras. When I was in the Trust Orchestra in Sydney, there was only a small section there too, and you were just really giving it everything you could. Yeah. And here was a bit the same. Yeah. So.
But when the orchestra moved into the Federation Concert Hall, did that change that part of the orchestra a little bit? Because it's such a lively acoustic. Did you find that?
No, because all the brass players were that much louder.
Just fills it. Yeah,
so you still had to cane it.
Yeah, so my predecessors probably thought, finally, a big hall we can play.
No, well, it was good for when the sectional solo would be more projecting. Yeah. So that was good. Yeah.
Fantastic. So over this vast period of time you've been down here, I'm sure you've picked up some hobbies, and I happen to know that you are into musical instrument making, like Doug, but you don't make violas. or cellos. You make violins.
Yeah, I back about 2014. I come from a family of carpenters. My father wasn't one though, but all his brothers and my grandfather, they were all builders and carpenters, and I've always had a fondness for wood.
Yep.
But I've never really done anything with wood ever, except just very briefly in my first year at high school, just as a taste. And I really enjoyed it. It was so relaxing. I felt so relaxed when I used to go to this class. It was the best class that I was involved in my years at high school. And anyway, so I thought, well, I'm not getting any younger, and at one point I'll have to retire at some point. So this is the way I was thinking.
Yeah, okay.
Not that I'm ready to retire at all, but I'm just thinking that. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? I don't want to just garden, and I don't want to just play golf and garden, because golf is another passion of mine.
Yes, that's right.
And so I thought, well, I'd like to. I really would. I'd already bought a cello by a local maker.
Yes.
Because I was so surprised at how good it was, and I was giving him free cello lessons because he was making cellos for his daughter, and he decided to make one for himself, and he wanted to learn, so I was giving him free cello lessons. And one day I said, "Could you teach me to make a cello?" And he said, "No, but I'll teach you to make a violin," because I think his reasoning behind that was that the violin is that much smaller, and so it'll be quicker to make for a beginner, because I haven't made anything except a chopping board.
Yeah.
That's it. That were the limits of my skills. So anyway.
So your first violin was a chopping board, but how many have you made since?
Oh well, it's a pretty slow process because I'm still working and I'm still practicing, and so it's not it's very much a part-time thing. So the first violin took me 2 years to make.
Wow.
And the second violin, which I've just virtually finished now, has taken me 3 years.
Wow.
Because I was on my own then.
Yes, all right.
I was a fledgling. I was pushed out of the nest, and I can talk to Dennis with I can send him photos of what I'm doing, and I occasionally go around there and I ring him up with a problem. But I'm on my own really, so it's taken me an extra 12 months this time.
It's a great hobby to have. Most people would consider it a bit too detailed and too full on for a hobby.
It doesn't feel like a hobby.
Yeah, okay.
It's a passion, and it involves so much reading and so much knowledge and so many decisions that you can make at every step.
Yeah.
I really want to make a violin that's playable at least in the orchestra, if not as a solo violinist. I want the violin to be really good in sound. So
this is one of the things that I'm learning about my colleagues in this orchestra, is that sort of the passion for music is not just performing within this studio or in the hall next door. It sort of runs. There's a deeper vein of passion that goes back to how do I make a better version of the instrument. So on that subject of instruments, we're about to lead into a performance where you're playing your cello, and I believe there's a pretty interesting story behind it. It's not a young brand new instrument by you or the local maker. It has a longer history. Yes,
this cello is by an English maker who was making in the 1770s in Salisbury. And his name was Benjamin Banks, and I came across this cello, a lovely old friend of mine who has just passed away. It's very sad, but he was selling it, obviously. And 10 years ago, when he approached me, I couldn't afford it. I had 2 children in private school, but I don't have that burden anymore. And so I purchased this cello about 2 years ago.
Wow.
I got him to bring it down, and because he was a friend of mine, I was able to play it for many months.
Yes.
In order to come to a decision about spending so much money. I couldn't have made that decision in a week. So he came down, stayed with me for a couple of weeks, and then left it behind.
It's a big investment in terms of money, but also the history that you're taking over.
That's right. I'm just a custodian of it, obviously. Yeah, and it's 250 years old. So it's the best cello I've ever owned, and one of the best cellos I've ever played.
Wow.
So I'm very happy to have that. I wish it was earlier in my career, but
It's never too late.
No.
There's
That's right.
There's time left for us to perform it, whether it be for the Daily Dose or hopefully once again in the Federation Concert Hall. But that's a great segue into your performance that we have today of Ravel's Pièce in the Form of a Habanera.